Students! Students, watch this video to get into vet school.
Hi, so this kind of video should act as like a guide for anyone that's applying for veterinary medicine, I mean across the world, but this is kind of more tailored to the UK students. And I kind of wish I had a video like this when I was applying for Vetmed. I mean, the thing with veterinary is a lot of the times it's not simple and you don't get in first time like myself. I didn't go in the traditional route, and you may be thinking, oh, you don't have the right to give any advice. You didn't even get in first time. Well, that's fair enough. And you don't have to watch the video, but obviously if you do watch the video, which is a wise idea, I have a great range of advice that I've managed to kind of pop in my pocket and put under the belt and learn over the years of being here. But hey, just before we start the video, don't you think you can get away with free tips without paying? And by paying, I mean just subscribing to the channel. It's a small little call to action, but please, any sort of subscriptions, any likes, any comments, any interaction helps me get on with my day, and it doesn't make me depressed when I post the episode. You know, I like to see the interactions. When I'm pooping, I like to text people and interact. So please pop a comment down. This channel is currently at 33 subscribers, and I want to make it to 66. Let's double it. And I'll do a milestone video if we get to 66. Okay, guys. So let's get down to the juicy gossip. What you guys are all here for, and let's get you down starting on your dream career path. Did you like the little animation? If I put an animation in, that would be great. If I didn't put an animation in, that's awkward. But we have got Dr. G's. I'll do it again. Another animation. That's another top tip animation for you guys. And speaking of top tips, number one has to be unique. I mean, you are going against the top 10% in the country, the best of the best, and you're fighting them. You are fighting for a place at their dream university, your dream university, and you need to stand out more than them. And I'm sure your lecturers and teachers and that have told you this all of the time, and it's true. You also need to really try and do so by having a range of work experiences. Animal related obviously will help, and that's what they tell you at college, but that's not going to just cut it. It can't be petting dogs or maybe looking at a cat. You need to ideally try and find a placement that's unique, that's eye candy, that's something that's going to make the person reading your CV, personal statement, really, it would be a jaw dropper. It will lure them in, and you don't want them skipping past your personal statement, treating it like any other. You want it to stand out. So we need to talk about certain types of placements that will help that. So speaking of that, let's talk about the sort of stuff that I did. So my sort of portfolio before starting university was that I had 4 weeks placement at a vet practice. There were 2 and 2. So that was the first kind of like basic, kind of, I wouldn't say mandatory, but I think it's always good to maybe do a couple of weeks vet practice placement prior to starting university or applying. And actually, I think some universities do. I might pop some stuff up on the screen. I think some universities do actually say that it's compulsory that you have set requirement placements of certain types. But aside from the vet practice, I did 2 weeks lambing, and lambing is an amazing one to get, but I feel it depends on your location. But for me, because I'm born from an urban place, that it was quite hard to find lambing placements. It was only because I knew someone that knew a farmer that I managed to get one. But if you're from like places more in the countryside, you might find that the lambing placements is common, and the people that you're going against in your local schools and area will also have lambing. So to you guys, it wouldn't be that special, and it wouldn't make your personal statement bougie. But for me, it worked pretty well. Aside from that, I had Bird World, which is essentially a bird sanctuary, which was quite a useful one. It shows that I have a range of species that I'm working with. Coffee sip. And aside from that, what else did I do? Oh, and I essentially had a couple of weeks at a dog shelter, which is quite just a nice buffer placement. So overall, nothing too crazy. I also put on my personal statement that I was trying to find an abattoir. And if you can go to an abattoir, I don't want to say do it, because that's a weird thing to recommend, but also it would definitely spice up the personal statement. So I would, if you want to look at doing that, definitely do that. But aside from placements, on your personal statement, you really want them to know who you are, what you want to do, and who you actually want to become as like a vet. In my statement, I said that I want to do a lot with exotics. I want to work with exotics. It's obviously a bit far-fetched, but if I had a lot of money, I would like to set up a reptile sanctuary, or like some sort of treatment center, something that can help reptiles, because I feel they're not as loved as they should be or could be. Feel bad. Hashtag feel bad for reptiles, guys. And the way that I kind of spiced up my personal statement with regards to that was that I told the university that I researched a rare species. They're called, if anyone's interested, they're called plated lizards. And the one that I had was black line plated lizards. And at the time, there wasn't really a great load of information on them. So I kind of milked the fact that there wasn't. And I said that I made a care plan, which I did. And that was how I kind of spiced up my personal statement. So if there's anything that you're interested and passionate in, definitely exploit that. Exploiting's not bad. If anyone said exploiting's bad, don't listen to that. That is a joke, by the way. Please exploit. It's bad. Please don't do it. So now that you've kind of crafted the creme de la creme, the piece of your highlight, your personal statement, what is next? And I mean, you're getting closer and closer to being a vet student. So let's talk about interviews, the second stage. And that means second tip. Animations are gonna be whopping, unless I'm not gonna animate, and then it's just gonna look so silly. I'm just gonna be making boxes every time. But hey, here's tip number 2, and that is interviews. I mean, every university is different when it comes to interviews, so please look online, research the universities that you're applying for. They all have different styles. I mean, luckily in the UK, I'm not too sure elsewhere, but we have these things called MMIs. MMIs are multiple mini interviews. They're kind of, I was about to say they're kind of small interviews. Yeah, it's weird that mini. And there's multiple. No, I mean, I'm joking, but that is true. And those sort of stations, they'll consist of ethical dilemmas. So what would you do if this was presented to you and you had to make a decision between this, and this? There will be clinical kind of questions in regards to that. It might be more like scientific. There might be some histology one. There's a whole range of interview style questions. And if there's any sort of interest in that, like if you want to know more about that, I can make a video all about MMIs. But I don't want to dwell too much on it. But essentially, there will be 4, 5, 6 stations, and there will be different topics on each, and you're going to have to assess and work out on each table what you think is best as a vet and as a professional, what you think would be the best option. And in regards to these interviews, like they could be online or they could be in person. Luckily, mine were online, but not my first attempt. So I applied to university 2 times. I failed the first time. I wasn't really as prepared as I could have been, and because I wasn't living in London at the time, or I wasn't near to London, I had to get a train up in the morning, and I woke up at 5 a.m. for the train to get to the interview in time. And I can't lie, because I was so nervous, I didn't sleep. So in hindsight, the interview didn't go well. It wasn't amazing. But the second year, when we were online, due to COVID, if you guys, I don't know how the interview process is now. I don't know if they're back to being in person, but if it's online, oh, beautiful. So calm, so relaxing. And in comparison, I don't want to stress anyone out if you guys have got an in-person one. I love the in-person one, and it was definitely a more real feel. You go see the university, usually they'll tour around and you'll see some interesting stuff. So definitely it's worth it. And speaking about interviews, and if it's in person or whether or not if it's online, you got to be dressed. Well, yeah, I'd hope you would be. But you got to be dressed, and you got to dress for the occasion, but not too much. I'm not talking bow tie, fez. I'm not talking a suit, a dapper prom suit. No, I mean you can, but my advice would be that be yourself, express yourself as you want to express, but keep it in a professional manner. What did I wear? I think I wore just wore simple. I wore smart casual. So I had jeans, like skinny jeans, which isn't the best, but then I had a tie and a shirt. So pros and cons. My advice, just slay queen. Look your best, be your best, but be professional. So now that you followed all of this advice, you wrote it down to the T, and you've beaten all the odds, you've passed, and you've got an offer. You've aced it. So let's talk about the best thing to do once you've got an offer, and it's tip 3. Research the uni. I feel like I've said that already with regards to the course, like the interview content, but now I'm talking about research the universities. You've got offers. Let's say you've got a range of offers. You got a handful to pick from. A couple of cherries to pick from the cherry tree you can't abide. Look at each university and kind of make sure. I mean, I assume you've already been to open days, given the time of you're applied and you got a place. But go to some open days. Research the content. If you can look online in some forums and websites, there will definitely be students talking about their experiences. If you wanted a video on the RVC, the Royal Veterinary College, if it's UK applicants, I'm more than happy to do a video on that. So let me know. But if not, there are things like summer schools that you can go to. And the only reason why I say research, because every university is different. In the UK, we have Cambridge, which is a very posh and grand school. And one of their unique features is that they have a program of Vetmed where you can do another additional year, content on the side, which could be zoology, it could be conservation, it can be any sort of animal related degree you could do as well as your vet med, which I feel is quite nice because it gives you like a feel of where you might want to go as a vet or as a different career, or just if you wanted to do something different, spice something up on the side while still doing vet med. But aside from that, you have schools like Harper Adams, Harper Keel, I believe, and all those that are more like large animal focused. So if you wanted to be a large animal vet, that would definitely be a good university for you. And the RVC is specialized in just animals. It's a veterinary university. There's no other subjects that are non-animal related. So I guess we are the best for vet med. I don't want to say it, but we are. It's quite a blunt advice, but I would research a university that resonates with you as a person, like what you want from your life, not what your family want, whatever your friends want, your partners, if your partner's going to the same university potentially. Just go, if you're the one that's going to have to live the life every day, go to the university that makes you happy, because if you're not happy, you will not succeed. Even if you are happy, some people don't succeed, so you better be happy, okay? Especially as these sort of courses, they're not a 2-3 year course. My course is 6 years because I didn't go a traditional route and I did a gateway course, so I had an extra year. But if you didn't do that and you had a normal route, that's still 5 years. That's 5 years of unhappiness. You don't want that. People don't want minutes of unhappiness, so years is a whole different scale. Research done. Now what? You've accepted your place, you go into a university and you're wondering, oh, I'm a vet student. What's next? I mean, you've been emailed a whole bundle of things that you need to buy for your university course. You are wondering about your accommodation. You don't know what to pack. You don't know what you need. You don't know what you might need to study in regards to A-levels and being prepped for the future. Let's calm down. Let's take a chill pill, have a coffee, and let's talk about point 4. There is a massive jump from A-levels to university, and I don't feel like people talk about it enough. And I'll be honest, I wasn't prepared. I don't want to say like I was a person that would just kind of wing life, but I was someone, and I did. And A-levels and that, and BTEC that I didn't really revise to the same sort of severity that I do now. And the content here is just much harder. I'll be honest, the essays are more professional, the lectures are less regulated, which doesn't sound like a bad thing, but essentially, if you don't want to go to the lecture, you don't have to, mate. Which is great in regards to if you want to be lazy and sleep in, but then it's also terrible because you could potentially sleep in a couple of days and then you decide to sleep in a couple of more days and then you've noticed that you're quite behind. And so in that regard, you need to create a schedule, you need to be on it, because if you're not on it, it will not be on you. And I mean, this was a problem for me, not the being on it, but content. That during COVID, we weren't going into uni. So trying to find the motivation and then the sort of schedule to be on top of it was quite hard. So I would definitely look at particular plans on how you want to lay out your time. So that's pretty much why my tip 4 is just about regulating and planning out your life. And there's many ways that you can do this. And as I've already said, I'm not the Holy Mary of organization. Okay, I'm not great. But there are some little tips and tools that I do use, and I definitely think you should do as well. My advice would be look at your timetable schedule, plan out what days you think are most important to go into. For example, some days a week, like Monday, Tuesday, you may have 4 or 5 lectures in person or online if your university records. If you think that's quite a lot to manage in regards to some days, if I've only got 1 lecture on, I'm not going to travel 30, 40 minutes to go to university to be there for an hour to then go home. Whereas if there's 5 lectures on, I probably should go in because my motivation at home to do 5 lectures when there's a bed next to me. Okay, so essentially a game changer for me at university that I got this year was an iPad. And obviously I know a lot of people's budgets won't allow for that, but if you can get something on that lines, it is amazing. I just wanted to show that I just find it so useful for drawing. So this is my tooth diagram that you can see. And I just find it so useful to draw my own sketches and visualize my learning. Whereas sometimes when you're looking at diagrams, it's not, you understand the content, but it's not in your own words as such. So I definitely recommend trying to get something like this. But of course, in the end of the day, stick within your budget and find something that works for you and your way of learning. But aside from actual physical objects, do you know what is also quite useful to have at university? A good revision technique, and that's something that I'm going to talk about now. I mean, I started off university not really having a revision technique. I was kind of one of those kids that kind of just winged life and it worked perfectly, which is not the case in university, and you can't do that. And so the last year and a bit, pretty much my gateway year that I've had, it's been a learning curve of trying to find what works for me and what sort of techniques works with jotting it into my head. I mean, the first year, reading over the content, revising, reading, revising, read, just like reading over and over until it just kind of got in my head, just the peritoneum, just all the big words that you need to learn, just being drilled in over and over. And that works for some people. And I mean, it did work for me. I passed, but I felt I spent more time glued to the screen than really actually learning anything. So there are definitely some techniques, and I'm going to tell you some now. The first technique that I recommend, and it's the one that I personally use, is that I like to make exam style questions. I like exams in regards to, I like to practice for exams by doing exams. And so I make questions that are similar to the sort of style you'd see on an exam paper, but they're in my own words and they're on every topic. And I will ask that question to myself, and then I will red, amber, green it. And obviously if I'm red, then it's not great and I need to do more of it. And if I'm green, then I'm good to go. So that would probably be my first revision technique. But if you don't want to do that, or if you're doing that and you want something else as well, there is a great app that people use called Vetrevise. And Vetrevise is essentially like flashcards that anyone can publish them, which is great because if you can't be asked to make them, you can steal other people's. And that's me. I do that. I'm lazy. And it's probably quite good in some regards because you get to see other people's wording of exam questions. And like when you make your own questions, you kind of know what's coming in a way because you wrote it. So having someone else's writing and not knowing the answer as such is quite good. And aside from that, there are some other techniques like setting up revision groups. And that's something that we did this year for university. And it helped. It's great, but it can in some ways be quite bad because it can make you feel less confident. If everyone there's a smarty pants and you haven't really revised, it can be a bit daunting, or vice versa. If you've overly revised and everyone else hasn't, it feels great. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, but that's that. And finally, it's not really a revision technique, but starting veterinary medicine, like before you start, 100%. I mean, I didn't do it. But if I could go back in time, pop in the TARDIS, I would 100% travel back in time and revise. I would research my content for the year. So Vetmed 1, I would look what I'm going to have this year. For example, if it's CVRS, which is the heart and the lungs essentially, and the systems regarding that, I would do A-level equivalent research prior to starting the course because it kind of just gives you a good buffer base knowledge. So you don't feel so stressed that you want to die. I'm not promoting that either, but I'm promoting revising before, getting yourself very prepped and ready for the sort of content that's going to happen this year. So you don't feel overwhelmed when you start, because that is a big thing. And that's how I felt when I started the course. Okay, so that's pretty much it to regards to prior to university. I've talked about how to get in, how to make yourself stand out, what techniques you should need during university, the interviews. And so now we're going to talk about past studies. We're going to talk about living and being an adult and adulting things, which is vile. But let's talk about budgeting, money, because you need to learn how to budget. Living is hard. It's crazy, right? Living is hard. We're in an economic crisis. And you need to learn how to sort out accommodations. You need to sort out student loans and how to live with other people. This is all what we're going to talk about now in Tip 5. Know your finances. That's the header I've got on my thing. Know your finances. I mean, a vet course is 40 hours on average a week. That's like a full-time job. And yet you don't get paid for it. If anything, you're paying for it. So you need some money somehow. And I mean, some people balance jobs. And I tried to balance a job for like pretty much a year. I was working in a pet store and it's great. Loved it. Lots of pets and stores. But the problem is balancing life. It's quite hard and it's painful. And I had to quit eventually because I couldn't deal with I don't want to say the stress, but it was the stress. And it's just, it was coming near to the exam time and I didn't feel like I had enough time to revise. And as well as that, the problem with having jobs that aren't 0-hour contract is that they aren't super flexible with placements, and I'm not sure on every course, and obviously look up the universities you're going to and the sort of requirements they have. But the RVC, for example, you have to do 12 weeks placement, AHEMS placement as we call it, before end of Vetmed 2. So that's essentially 6 weeks per year, and holiday pay may not always be flexible, and it can just be a bit awkward to deal with. So definitely consider that if you're looking to a job, or some universities offer jobs on campus and that. So definitely look into that if you want some money. We all want money. And to be honest, only starting like this year, I've gotten quite good with budgeting. I've made a budget sheet, planned out like finances, because life is very expensive, and transport and costs, food costs at the moment, it's really, you can lose money quite quickly. You can spend it away. So definitely, if you want to, set up a finance sheet on Excel. I mean, I could teach, if there's any interest for that, I could do that if you wanted. And as well as that, you have to consider there's a lot of upfront costs coming to university. The university might require you to buy lab coats, so these parlor tops, these parlor trousers, like the waterproof kind of stuff. Your university may have boiler suits, wellies, like steel cap toe wellies, stethoscopes. Some courses don't actually require it. Like mine says Vetmed requires a stethoscope, and you don't really need a stethoscope for like the first 6-7 months. So take it with a pinch of salt, but it's all expensive. And it kind of added up to like £100+. I mean, I would definitely try and look secondhand if you wanted to. The university recommends buying from them, but you don't have to. Some universities have student union shops that are cheaper. So look at that. If not, go secondhand, eBay, Amazon, they all have quite cheap alternatives. So in the end of the day, you don't need the bougiest brand. You need something that will cover your body and do the job. And just quickly, in my opinion, in regards to like books and that for university, they're very useful. And like I would recommend them, but they're heavy, they're really expensive. And to be honest, you can get the same sort of stuff online for cheaper or free. So I don't want to say don't get books, but... And so let's deviate from if you got into veterinary, and let's go on to, let's say you didn't get into veterinary. You failed your interviews, or you didn't get past that stage in regards to you didn't even get to interviews. So let's talk about the way you go now. If you still want to be a vet, which I don't blame you. I had the same dilemma many years ago, like 2 years ago. And so what you can do is that there's a range of routes for you. So essentially, firstly, a large range of UK universities offer gateway courses, as they're called. I'll pop it up on the screen now. But my university, the RVC, and a whole range of others like I think Harper Adams, Nottingham, they all offer a gateway course, which is essentially normal Vetmed, 5 years, but it's also an additional little year. And that's like a bridge gap between A levels and university. And for us, it's essentially year one of one of the other courses they offer here at the RVC called the bioscience course, which year one is essentially like a teaser to Vetmed. It has a lot of the topics we do in Vetmed, but just a little bit more watered down, and then some other side topics as well. So it's quite fascinating, and it's a great way to kind of warm you into how university teaches you. And for me, it was great because it gave me time to practice and refine my revision techniques. So it's a great for people that don't get in traditionally. But aside from that, if you don't want to do that, or if you can't do that, because they do have certain requirements that you do need to either fit certain postcodes, or you need to have certain financial issues. And there's lots of factors that do play into if you can or cannot get in to Gateway. But I would look online and they will state all of the different requirements, and it's kind of point based, I believe. So look into that. But if you don't want to do that, there are other routes. Like if you do any biology based degree, it can honestly be anything. Ideally animal based, but if not, any biology works. You can then do a 4-year course. It's like an accelerated course. I'll pop something up here that essentially is just a refined vet course. But the only catch with that course is that I don't believe here in the UK, if you've taken already a biology university course, you may not get the funding fully for your new course, the Vetmed course. You might have to try and find a way to fund that. That was the catch problem for me, and that's why I didn't want to do that route, because I'm a little poor. But also, don't be discouraged if you failed the first application, because there's 2 times that you can do it here in the UK. So you can apply to the same universities in the second time. I failed my interviews the first year, and I reapplied. I did a gap year and reapplied, and here I am. So don't feel like you're a failure because you didn't get in the first time. You're never a failure, and to be honest, there's so many ways you can get into veterinary. But aside from that, I believe I've said all of the tips that one can tip you. If you have any questions, as I've said, please pop it in the comments, and peace.